Ouh, bienvenue sur Benzaie Live. Saviez-vous que je n'avais jamais joué à The Stanley Parable? Parce qu'à la base, pour moi, c'était un Garry's Mod de loin. Donc j'ai pas compris pourquoi c'était bien. Il est revenu en version Ultra Deluxe, je viens de le choper sur ma Xbox. Et en plus, je n'ai jamais joué donc au premier jeu. Alors que là, c'est la version Ultra Deluxe qui est arrivée, avec du contenu en plus, même pour les gens qui connaissent par cœur. Et du coup, mon cher Emerica, on va tout faire en ultra découverte, virginale, alors que c'est un des jeux les plus atypiques. Let's go. Et attention, le moindre backseat, c'est emote only, bien sûr, dans le chat. Merci Tristan. Il est exactement... Non. Il est minuit 10. Et minuit 10, c'est 12 p.m., hein, on est d'accord. Hein. Je sais jamais si... 12, je sais jamais si c'est... Minuit, je sais jamais... Oh, je ne veux pas voir une vidéo, je veux juste la référence. C'est 12 a.m. qui correspond à minuit. Et PM qui est l'après-midi. Le truc qui me fait toujours buter, quoi. Le chat a opté pour le 50-50, ça n'étonnera personne. Attendez. Ah non, je ne veux pas choisir mon hit train, j'en ai rien à foutre. Comme ça change au moment où tu mets 12, on prend genre t'es toujours... En plus il est 12. Il n'y a pas 0 heure en anglais.
C'est un hareng.
Merci Rémi. Je rappelle, ce jeu est censé rendre fou, mais c'est pas juste le chat ou tout seul ou juste la... Donnez-leur n'était pas un piège. Merci Move the Bass.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one
Les ombres pourraient être mieux pour la version next-gen. Hein.
had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting.
C'est vraiment un jeu Garry's Mod hein, pour le coup. Hein. Le mec s'est fait des couilles en or.
All his years at the company had this happened. This complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Alors, le champ de vision, j'aimerais qu'il soit un peu plus énervé quand même. La sensibilité de la caméra aussi, s'il vous plaît. La langue, la taille des sous-titres en plus grand, s'il vous plaît. L'opacité des sous-titres, non, non, non. Ok. Oh, ça donne un peu la gerbe tout ça. Ouais, mais pourquoi c'est si lent quoi? Genre c'est pas possible.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Il y a un léger
No matter
input
how
lag en
hard
fait sur
Stanley
cette version
looked,
console.
he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Non, je vais perdre. Je stream à 30 FPS là. Et le jeu a pas l'air de tenir les 60 non plus. Hein. Pour une version ultra deluxe qui ressort sur les consoles next-gen qui a revendu 20 balles.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Non!
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all. Just but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Non!
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Do not jump from the cargo lift while it is in motion.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do,
Okay.
Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Ok. C'est bon, je crois que j'ai tout compris. Y'a pas un vieux truc, genre si t'attends toute ta vie, le narrateur et il finit le truc? C'est une fin en soi, hein.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly.
Mais je trouve ça incroyable que en version ultra deluxe à 20 balles, il y a toujours pas un doublage, il y a une seule voix quoi. Il y a toujours pas de doublage français quoi. Merci Marie-Ève. Desmodo, merci.
Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Non.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Jumping of the Carbolifts, 5000, 1000.
Oh, well, look who's got cold feet. Sorry to break it to you, Stanley, but that lift isn't coming back. You'd best either get comfortable right here on this platform, or test your luck by jumping to the floor below. You know what? Looking at it now, it's not that far to the bottom floor. I bet you can make it.
Il dit ça pour me tester, cet enculé. Ça se trouve, la plateforme revient.
I'm sure you'll survive the jump. Don't tell me you're scared. That's not the
ultra bien
Stanley
écrit,
I
par
know.
contre.
Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it.
On peut se baisser. On peut pas sauter, on peut pas... Ah, ok, ça verrouille vraiment les portes. On peut pas revenir en arrière. Pas rien activer. Genre en 50 runs, je savais pas qu'on pouvait faire ça, ouais. Là, la voix, elle savait quoi.
C'est un hareng.
Merci Maxart. Ah oui, d'accord, sans transition.
So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun.
Oh, on a cassé le jeu.
That it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten.
Merci le violateur.
So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun.
Vidéodrome.
That it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun.
Ta gueule!
You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording. It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and
y a tellement de gens qui sont comme ça.
Storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
Mais qu'est-ce qui nous arrive? Wow, c'est une fin ça?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Imagine, il faut quand même pas essayer de maroufler dès le début, quoi. Alors par contre, ils m'ont demandé de baisser le gamma au début et finalement, c'est dégueulasse. Alors je vois la moitié des trucs, quoi.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long. Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Ou pas.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Ou pas.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Attends, je vais remonter le gamma, c'est ridicule ce qu'ils ont fait. En fait, j'ai pas... Tu changes le gamma une fois. J'ai pas accès là.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Non.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated, as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ah, le solitaire. Ok. Le bureau. C'est des décors que j'ai absolument pas vus. What the fuck? En train de me spoiler les autres fins du jeu.
C'est un hareng.
Merci vilain coco. Ah, il y a une fin vers la liberté. De toute façon, peu importe. Hein, Le vrai truc, c'était de pas savoir à quoi tu jouais quand tu le lançais.
How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
Pourquoi ma manette vibre?
Listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your Xbox. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
J'ai pas relancé ma Xbox, lol. Ok. De toute façon, s'il y a plusieurs fins, il n'y a pas un ordre de fin.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
En soi, on peut essayer de monter sur cette fameuse plateforme. On n'a jamais fait quelque chose d'autre.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Et donc là...
Look, Stanley,
Ouais,
I think perhaps
mais il
we've
y a un truc qui est
gotten off on
allumé et
the
ça
wrong
c'est chiant.
foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've... What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why... I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really
Tu es un backseater, donc bien évidemment que tu n'as pas de bonnes intentions ni d'amis.
Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked... All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go.
Ça me fait penser à la frustration que c'était dans le premier Portal de voir plein de portes et de trucs qui ont l'air d'aller nulle part et tout, d'avoir trop envie d'y aller ou de suivre le G-Man dans Half-Life. Et je pense que ça vient pas mal de ce sentiment-là, en mode genre, mais même si t'y vas et que tu no-clip, il n'y a rien. Le jeu, c'est que ce que c'est censé faire.
Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. Aha! You see, I knew I was onto something. Where do these flashes of inspiration come from? How did I know the game needed a third door? Well, it's instinct mostly, a calling in your gut. I really couldn't say where the idea came from, except that I felt it in my soul. You can't teach that, Stanley. Don't even try. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Quoi? Oh, il y a une leaderboard.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up. In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right. And if he reaches the fire, you fail.
Cette texture est beaucoup trop réaliste, elle est en 8K quoi.
All about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience. You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes. This seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Il y a vraiment un succès si tu joues au jeu du bébé pendant 4 heures, what the fuck.
Aha! Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me
le jeu
that you're meant
Firewatch.
to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more.
Oh oui,
Come,
meilleur
let's
jeu.
venture outward and see what else is out there.
À la base c'était Minecraft, ah ouais. Je crois pas avoir déjà fait Kona, mais j'ai déjà fait Pneuma.
Oh no. No, it can't be. It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly, block it off. Oh,
Wow.
thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing. That big, open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
Je suis perturbé. What?
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to
Oula.
run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed.
C'est un hareng.
Merci Emmerich.
Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see.
Ils ont tout refait sous
There
Unity
are
pour
lots of
reproduire la
cars here
gueule
in
du
the back,
source.
but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Wow.
Are you doing it? Are you winning? Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Hold on. What are you doing?
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
J'aurais dû augmenter le gamma quand même, hein, parce que là putain on sait pas où on va. Hein. Ah, ça me frustre. Pourquoi on ne peut pas changer le gamma pendant... Il y a des options il y a des options d'accessibilité, mais alors le gamma, nique ta mère. Mais là je meurs. En fait, je vois mieux sur l'écran de retour que sur mon vrai écran, quoi. En gros, si vous voulez, j'ai une lumière là qui reflète le mur devant moi, mais du coup, ça fait un espèce de reflet dans l'écran dans lequel je joue. Et du coup, ça baisse le contraste.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it, down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Ok. On est de retour là.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
C'est un hareng.
Wow.
This was
On vient
not
plus
the
vite
correct way
maintenant.
to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it
Merci,
perfectly
Emmerich.
well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
C'est un hareng.
Standing
Merci,
now in
Pink
this
Jasmine.
incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for?
Ouah, c'est perché de fou.
Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I feel... No, wait. Where are you going?
Ah, le nombre de fois où tu peux lui dire fuck.
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing. No! Oh, thank God. You lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the other room? No. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me? Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
On va pas attendre 100 ans. Le planétarium. Oui. Putain, ma lampe marche quand elle veut, quoi. Il se passe rien, désolé.
No. Perhaps not.
Il y a vraiment rien d'autre que le plongeoir.
Is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You were literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore.
Oh mon dieu, les dialogues
I
infinis,
just
quoi.
wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask.
Merci Martour.
Looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
Quelle dépression. J'ai l'impression que mon eau est pas bonne.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the
Mais il est
employee
forcément
lounge
antipathique,
first,
ce
just to
narrateur, c'est pas
admire it.
possible. Hein.
Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
C'est vrai qu'on n'a jamais fait ça.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Merde, j'ai pas le choix. En fait, le fait qu'on puisse jamais ouvrir une porte, c'est chiant, quoi.
Oh, no. No, it's to the right. My mistake.
Merci à Yonne.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh, dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see.
Mon Dieu, c'est la mauvaise phase, c'est sûr.
Left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
Il manque la 234.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be...
Wow.
Oh, did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Déjà, c'est des gros trolls parce que... En fait, le côté Garry's Mod, moi, me plaît pas du tout, quoi. Ça me sort du truc, quoi.
C'est un
Un énorme grincheux. Merci, Drac.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Yes, elle passe son temps à changer, là.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Là, tu dois collaborer avec lui, quoi, limite. Va juste retourner au début du jeu.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work.
Merci, Frantic Platypus.
Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving
wow, merci l'utiliser Anonymous pour les 10 abonnements.
Destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself. Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood. Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern.
What?
Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Déjà, je suis la ligne jaune vraiment parce que je suis gentil, quoi.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell?
C'est un hareng.
Ça a rechangé.
Oh, no, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us?
Il y a encore 234 qui bug. Et 104 aussi.
Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it.
101.
Restart.
C'est un hareng.
Mal aux yeux. D'où ça? Un petit peu la gerbe.
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
C'est un hareng.
Quoi, 50? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Ouais, j'ai rien vu. Alphonse Sama qui offre ça. Oh là, ça fait longtemps. 50 abonnements, Alphonse James. Sama, n'importe quoi. Alphonse James. En remerciement du cadeau offert par Lux Fausse. Merci, parce que ça fait plus d'une semaine qu'on n'a pas restreamé correctement. T'as vu, là, dehors, le fond de ma tête, là, il est très raccord avec Stanley Parable. Merci Alphonse James. Ça fait en plus une petite semaine que j'avais pas bien repris les streams parce qu'on était sur le Hard Corner avec chez Chounet. C'est arrivé. On est dans le montage. Et donc ça fait plaisir d'être bien accueilli en stream. Sachant que j'ai failli annuler encore le stream de ce soir parce que j'ai eu que des merdes quand j'étais essayé de streamer sur la PS5. Merci de me soutenir dans cette aventure streamante et on les redépasse grâce à toi les 1000 abonnés, ça c'est fou. Et bienvenue aux 50 nouveaux. Merci à Fonce James. C'est vraiment, vraiment délirant, 50 subs. Au nom d'Amazon Prime et de Jeff Bezos, je te remercie. Car 50% iront à cette ONG bienfaitrice qui est Amazon. Merci à toi. Merci Inak Kashin aussi, hein, qui s'abonne avec son Prime. Merci beaucoup. Non mais vraiment, c'est cool parce que même si, blague à part, repasser au-dessus des 1000 subs, psychologiquement, ça Ah, ça valide mon cœur.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Non, là, par contre, ne tourne pas à l'infini, s'il te plaît, le jeu.
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Moi, je tiens à dire qu'on a joué à des jeux similaires sur Dreams. Hein. Merci Malix TV.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits.
C'est un hareng.
Je vais jouer à la fin troublante.
Oh, hold up, what's this?
Wow.
The confusion
Attends, est parti. Au bout d'un moment, Stanley meurt.
That's what this is.
Relance le jeu.
It's all one giant ending.
Le bureau en espace noir. Erreur dans les ténèbres. Trouver une librairie, s'ennuyer, partir. Narrateur relance le jeu.
That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall.
Narrateur relance le jeu. Narrateur oublie qu'il a déjà relancé le jeu. Il essaie de suivre l'histoire, mais il est empêché. Il ne peut aller nulle part ni faire quoi que ce soit. Le jeu se relance tout seul. Retrouver la ligne, commencer à suivre la ligne. Trouver une réplique parfaite du bureau qui commence à se dégrader. Essayer de créer une histoire ici. Narrateur lance le jeu. Il n'y a plus de bureau, c'est bon espace noir.
I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
Ah non, j'ai oublié mon baume anti-moustique au boulot.
So,
Oh putain de merde.
okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure.
Ouais, Médric, oh là là, 75 mois.
Though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
Je m'ai réveillé d'un seul coup.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
J'ai l'intention de me barrer, mec.
C'est un hareng.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Merci SQL.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was grand, majestic, perhaps, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Je vais toujours pas aller de l'autre côté.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me. I'm asking, this is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Les ombres pourraient être mieux faites hein, sur Xbox Series X. Hein. Ouais, apparemment, ouais, il y a un succès pas joué pendant 5 ans.
Is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right.
What the
Okay, there we go. All right, now I want you to come in and tell me all
Je ne peux pas croire qu'ils aient pris le risque d'animer quelqu'un d'autre. Wow.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show.
C'est bel et bien une version Xbox Series X. C'est pas un portage du jeu. La version DELUXE est refaite entièrement sur Unity et est sur les consoles. Il y a le logo XS, du coup, il n'y a pas d'excuse. Il devrait tourner en 4K avec les ombres à daon. Chut, 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 chut.
Tell you what's really going on here.
Non, parce que genre... Droppez pas des fausses vérités dans le chat comme ça, là. Non, j'ai pas envie de faire ça.
C'est un hareng.
Je me plains des ombres sur cette version. Mais non, mais...
Stanley is quite a boring fellow.
C'est un
He has a
hareng.
job that demands nothing of him.
Oui, mais...
And every button that he pushes
Comprenez que le
is a
côté
reminder of the
aseptisé fonctionnerait mieux si vraiment les ombres, elles étaient pas toutes cracraburk.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do.
Non, je suis Stanley! Je suis Stanley!
He's getting lunch. Now he's going home.
C'est pas une question de beauté graphique, c'est une question de propreté. Bordel de merde. Mais le jeu me laisse rien faire d'autre. J'ai tellement envie de reset.
But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a
Stanley est juste
reminder
déçu
that
que sa
none
femme
of
ait
it
pas de
would
zézette.
ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that
Mon Dieu,
one
quel
day
enfer.
while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a bear.
Attendez, il y en a pour 10 heures de fausse fin, quoi.
The Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Pourtant, il me semble qu'il y a des speedruns de ça.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he
Merci
can
The
never be
Hackla et
anything but an
Roxas.
observer. That as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Mais y a rien à faire!
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see?
Il y avait rien d'autre à foutre,
How can
quoi.
I make him look at
Je
himself?
suis trop impatient en plus. Je me presse Y te remettre en question.
Not in the way I want him to, but I don't make the rules.
Mieux que tous les jeux de
I
David
simply
Cage.
play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button.
Veuillez mourir. Fu Manchu qui me sort la table. D'ailleurs, en parlant de David Cage, apparemment Quantic Dream a pensé que j'avais mal pris leur kit presse en disant que c'était beaux joueurs parce qu'ils avaient le sens de l'humour. Et du coup, ils ont demandé à minuit 12, l'agence qui les distribuait, si en fait j'aurais pas mieux fait de le refuser si je le voulais pas ou je sais pas quoi. Et genre, bah non, tout le monde dit que c'est beaux joueurs quoi.
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like. I'll give you a call if there's anything I forgot. Thanks, sweetie. See you tonight.
En fait, ce qui me rend fou, c'est que ce serait déjà assez intriguant si c'était tout le temps la même chose, mais là en plus, le jeu change le début quoi, il triche.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Est-ce que ça y est, on a fait le jeu estime qu'on a assez vu de l'ancien jeu pour débarquer dans le nouveau?
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Merci Dragon Lee Win.
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
Pas que je m'ennuie, c'est que j'ai un peu la gerbe.
Step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Je suis pas de mauvaise humeur, putain.
Oh, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
J'ai vraiment payé le jeu 21 balles, hein, ça veut dire.
so far it's an elevator. Nothing special.
C'est le
yet,
fauve là, j'arrive pas, je le trouve mal de régler quoi.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been...
Si le fauve m'aide pas, mais alors j'arrive pas à savoir si je veux moins ou plus quoi.
More ready, let's do it.
Parce que la déformation me donne vraiment le
I
vertige quoi.
have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Fantastique innovation. Bien sûr, il y a un Goaka. Ah, j'ai plus de saut pour la vie. Ah ah!
Is that it? Surely that's not all.
Ah non,
the
sérieux, on a
content.
supprimé.
There has to be something else, right? Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say,
J'ai enfin mon premier succès.
this game are not positive. It's just elevators and
Non mais avec tout ce qu'on a fait quoi.
Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Mais là maintenant, j'ai l'impression que c'est devenu mon pote alors que moi je l'emmerde.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when
pourquoi là, c'est pas en français?
developers
Tout le reste
with
était en
no
français.
respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Non! Mais... On n'est pas au début du jeu. Waouh. La texture est en 8K quoi.
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something.
Plot seconds.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past.
J'ai l'impression que dans la donne, c'est devenu ton pote.
Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap Xbox port? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Bon, ça c'est marrant, que c'est vraiment l'âge d'or quoi. L'argent. Ah oui, le fameux succès Don't Play for 5 years. Possible to get this achievement. Les BAFTA quoi. Le décor. L'arnaque du truc quoi. Waouh, c'est joli.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism. 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling.
Attention, Destructoid, ils ont aussi donné 10 sur 10 à mince, ce jeu d'horreur là sur Xbox 360. Mince, vous savez là, le survival bizarre là. Non, mais sur 360, pas Visage. Oh là là. Le truc japonais trop bizarre qui est hyper inspiré de... Twin Peaks là, genre vachement avec un peu de conduite. Ah putain, vous l'avez. Clive Barker, c'est un FPS les amis. Deadly Premonition, merci. C'est devenu à mon secours.
And I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
C'est marrant de découvrir ça sans avoir fait le 1.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the Xbox, boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise.
Mon Dieu, mais cette vie. On va y aller. Vire-moi ça!
These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no, oh God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
On est dans le review bombing quoi.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion.
the narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Et tout le monde en prend pour son grade, quoi.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley, I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh, dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable.
Et ouf, c'est qu'ils ont le même narrateur des années plus tard, quoi.
Qu'est-ce qu'on fout là? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Well, there's sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the part.
Du coup, c'est la vraie heure là.
The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof, and it's all over. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes. It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks.
Je n'ai aucune pitié.
Hello, it's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had...
Narrateur, c'est pas mon pote, hein. Oh mon dieu, quel enfer! Oh.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said...
On peut plus.
The end is never the end, 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 is never...
Merci Rushoki. Il se passe plus rien. On est en train de prendre l'eau. Ah, voilà. Il a voulu ton skip button. Hein. Ah, des graphismes. Arrivé dans le futur du jeu vidéo, mon gars. Ah yes. Nickel. Pour pas moyen de se barrer. Let's go. Que dalle. On meurt. Le contenu additionnel. Les gens qui ont attendu ça à presque 10 ans pour faire ça. Voilà une fin qui est plaisante. Bien sûr, quelqu'un fait de la guide, fait de la sitar, quoi. Si vous êtes dans le désert et qu'il n'y a personne qui vous parle, vous entendrez... Meilleur moment du nouveau contenu.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ah, il y a le nouveau contenu.
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Let's go. Ça sent... Moi qui voulais faire enregistrer un truc pour Hard Corner, je sens que je vais manger un taco, c'est mourir en fait.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2.
Ah, là on parle.
Yes, you see, isn't this far
très
superior
malin.
to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely
Store
new
Showcase.
experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking
Ah, mais
for.
les visuels sont vraiment trop classe en plus quoi.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so
Avec des
much
meilleures textures et
catchier
tout.
than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Un peu le début de Matrix 4. Hein. Il y a 3 trucs, après il y a genre Thanks for my meeting avec un vieux word art. Ah, le fameux buisson. Il y en a 2. Le Stanley
Now, to be
Parable
clear,
2.
I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Les visuels sont trop ouf quoi.
Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Le bouton qui dit le nom du joueur.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks... Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. Jim. Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory.
Oh, c'est
if you
chiant.
don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim.
Ouah, Tigrebois.
Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim,
Fantastique.
playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a
Oh mon
popcorn
Dieu,
and horror
tuez-moi.
movie sleepover as Jim, developing a crippling substance addiction as Jim, rediscovering yourself. Jim. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
Non, il fait exprès
Maybe I'll
d'être
only
énervant.
let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable 2. An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
C'est que cette merde. An easy achieve. C'est pas du tout ce que le jeu veut qu'il se passe, mais. Je se barrer par là. Très bien.
Oh, goodness. Stanley, this is very awkward. I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to both the exhibits for the bucket and the collectibles. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves both of them. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the collectibles and the bucket, okay? All right, I'll get out of your hair now. No? You're just going to ignore my advice? Fine. No fun new content for you, then. You're the one who spent money on this game.
Ça par contre, c'est pas faux. Merde, putain, le jeu, il arrive à me prendre par surprise, quoi. C'est pas faux que j'ai foutu 20 balles dedans pour essayer de savoir comment on fait pour arrêter de jouer. C'est vrai que la relation, elle est ultra toxique, quoi.
What do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2. I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
C'est un hareng.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags.
Merci
And I
d'une
do very much
mascarade.
enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Waouh. C'est vraiment réussi, hein. Ils connaissent bien leur travail, hein.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Je rejoue au 1.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first.
Ah, le fait d'avoir skip, ça a vraiment pas débloqué les nouveaux trucs. Est-ce que j'ai pas surtrollé le chat? Excusez-moi, je ne savais pas que skipper un truc pouvait en fait nous empêcher de découvrir du contenu, alors que tout le jeu est basé sur le fait de d'aller de son propre chef où on veut, quoi. Désolé d'avoir cru que que c'était peut-être un guac après la première salle du guac, que en fait il fallait justement peut-être se barrer coûte que coûte parce qu'il te laissait faire.
Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why?
Du coup, il faut que je retourne dans la présentation de Stanley Parable 2 pour vraiment débloquer le jeu. À la suite du jeu. Ce serait pas un peu un défaut? C'est pas un peu antinomique?
Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked... All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I'd written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles?
Oh, Crystal! Oh là là, qui nous envoie 603 viewers! Bienvenue! J'espère que ça va bien. On joue à Stanley Parable en full découverte et on se fait déjà engueuler de ne pas avoir forcément débloqué le 2. Ah non, ça c'était chiant.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ah mais du coup, tu peux retourner à l'expo de Stanley Parable 2. Il est quand même conscient que je l'ai vu. Ah, la VF est magnifique, hein. Elle n'existe pas. Merci beaucoup Crystal pour le host. Hein, les amis, entre autres photographe plateau sur JDG.
This ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for
Là, il me raconte sa vie.
So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Donc le saut de réconfort. Ok.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical. that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind.
C'est le cube d'amour de Portal. Hein.
As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Ça, c'était important de le faire.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Ballons, quoi. Oh. Il est plus joli celui-là.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion,
Merci,
it makes
Yoshi.
you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Forcément.
Or
Je vais être beaucoup mieux.
maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on. Now, here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the achievement will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley,
Merci beaucoup, Yoshi.
but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Okay. Je peux partir. Ah, mais c'est vraiment que ça?
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Fameux jump circle.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle? Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece, then.
Des collectibles. Collectible bleu.
collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Dans la vraie vie, putain, cette vision d'enfer. Il a dit qu'il voulait pas qu'il y ait un compteur.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2.
Ça, il a déjà raconté sa vie.
Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
C'était chiant.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features?
Oh, bah, tu
yes, I
ferais
know
taper.
it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay, are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Oh, c'est infernal.
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2. Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
J'ai l'impression que ma tête circonspect ne vous plaît pas beaucoup, les gens. Avec le saut, on risque rien.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big
Ah, donc il y a des ballons maintenant.
He was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say,
Je peux pas vous donner mon avis sur le jeu pendant que je suis là en train de le défricher. Je vois qu'il y a les ballons, par contre.
Complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and
En fait, je suis circonspect du côté Stanley Parable 2. Est-ce que c'est un énorme troll ou est-ce que...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Vraiment les
Stanley
ballons.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Je crois qu'on n'a jamais fait que ce que dit le narrateur. Hein.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Il y en a d'entre vous, ça fait 10 ans qu'ils jouent au jeu, quoi.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me.
Alors, du coup, il y a vraiment bucket intégré dans les anciennes.
He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me! The bucket!
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley! Find me!
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass.
and she backflipped all the way to work.
On n'a pas gagné. Je suis toujours incapable de dire si je progresse ou pas en fait.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort
Est-ce que le new content c'est juste le showroom du 2?
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket
Visiblement, il y a
turned out
vraiment
to be
beaucoup
correct?
plus de choses
Was it
que
never mind.
je le
The
suspecte.
bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and
On va
walked straight
retourner par là.
ahead to
En
the
fait,
opposite door.
on n'y est jamais allé là. Ah, du coup, on
Still
revient
no
là.
one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the
Ah oui, mais c'est encore le truc avec le boss. Ah.
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each
Ah, le
and
bouton
every
skip!
moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
T'as vu qu'on pouvait aller autant dans autant d'endroits chez le boss. Ils avaient déjà tous enculé la version ultra deluxe quoi. Quel enfer. Quel enfer du
Stepping
cul.
into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him.
C'est quoi ce bruit quoi?
The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Un bucket à
Another
plot
miniature
hole.
Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about Mini stands, Stanley figs. What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Je savais que ça rendrait zinzin, hein. Je pensais juste être plus rapidement plus malin que le jeu. Et je pense que le jeu a 6 coups d'avance.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Et l'escape là, on avait fait ce truc, on était tombé, puis on s'était fait écraser, puis nanani nanana. On n'a jamais fait ça.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped.
Toujours pas ce qu'il y a avec cette
monitored
234
like
là.
guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that
La 234, il y a une espèce de bug. Je sais pas si c'est significatif.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
On a compris. Ça va pas me faire rire pendant 30 ans, quoi.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. When at last they came to the source, Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it.
Je sais pas si c'est spécialement de l'humour très anglais, mon cher Thanados. Je suis un grand fan de Monty Python et même les sketchs les plus bizarres de Monty Python, je les trouve rigolos. Je sais pas si j'y retrouve spécialement cet ADN Monty Python. Il y a le timing est quand même différent, quoi.
Had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine.
C'est surtout un accent anglais, parce que l'humour est vraiment ce qu'on appelle l'humour anglais.
Discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together. with one another to lean on, to trust, to support. What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face.
Plus qu'un saut, pour apprécier le jeu, il ne faut pas être une énorme tête de con comme moi.
This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
C'est si marrant que ça, en fait.
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door.
Je crois que j'ai jamais fait la vraie fin. Le truc de base, quoi. On peut vraiment aller dans cette pièce.
Can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley. Don't give in. Don't hand over the bucket. I know how hard it must be, given the pressure that the broom closet is putting on your shoulders right now, but you have to be strong. This is your bucket. This is your
Si tu récupères le seau, il va en parler pendant tout le long. Infernal.
Hand it over. Oh no. We're getting into name calling now, it seems. Is this how low the broom closet has sunk that it...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Attends, on vient de le faire, ça.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Non, il s'adapte.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut.
Je reste ultra intrigué du design du jeu. Par contre, je ne vais pas exploser de rire parce que les gens ont un accent anglais. Et il y a quelqu'un a dit, ouais, effectivement, il y a un peu le côté humour chou-fin, même si c'est souvent utilisé de façon dégradante, mais c'est souvent le côté ultra tryhard des nerds Je connais bien, hein, ce que je connais, je sais d'où je viens aussi. Mais je peux pas imaginer quelqu'un mort de rire à chaque fois qu'il entend bucket et que ça insiste sur le bucket alors qu'on est en train de faire quelque chose d'intéressant. Là, genre...
To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket. But what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator.
Il y avait un truc ultra méta là avec la deuxième narratrice.
In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold. Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life? No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket. But there is something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't.
Non mais les trucs.
Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements.
Les trucs sur l'industrie des jeux vidéo sont ultra pertinents et cool.
Hein. Shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision. Et je suis le premier à rigoler des Now Something Completely Different de Monty Python Flying Circus. Hein.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Et du coup, est-ce qu'il faut pas prendre le bucket, mais quand même essayer de chercher la fin de Stanley Parable 2? J'ai l'impression... À part les figues, ça et le bouton Joy, mais...
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
C'est que j'en ai déjà ras le cul du bucket. C'est pas très drôle. Ah, ça a changé là. Il a juste dit it was okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
Ah merde, il y avait une figurine là. Ah putain de merde. Et pourquoi je la veux en fait? Y a rien à... Ça sert à rien.
There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every...
Really?
I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you?
J'avais l'impression d'avoir fait un truc de ouf quand on arrivait dans une zone là où il disait je peux même plus t'aider quand maintenant qu'on est arrivé là.
Let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness?
Mais la vraie question, c'est pas est-ce que je peux trouver la fin du jeu tout seul, c'est est-ce que j'en ai envie.
Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Même si c'est totalement unique hein, comme façon de faire quelque chose, de faire un jeu, mais.
Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Mais rester 10 heures dessus à la suite, je sais pas comment vous avez pu faire. Hein.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Ah mais là c'est le truc où on s'est suicidé parce que c'était trop de la merde. Oh non, ça pue là. Il y a pas une fin où tu branles juste rien au début là?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Ah, j'ai adoré There Is No Game. Hein. Franchement, gros chef-d'œuvre.
With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Pardon, j'ai réussi à faire un truc.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Mais non, j'en ai ras le cul en fait de faire ce truc là.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Il y a un jeu aussi, c'est Don't Shit Your Pants. Faut chercher un moyen, faut aller aux toilettes là. Et si tu fais un input qui va pas, tu te chies dessus. Ça va être un chef-d'œuvre. Non, je vois plus l'expo Stanley Parable 2.
But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anlerines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anlerines. None of us can. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms.
How deeply touching.
En fait, j'ai plus l'impression de progresser, mais c'est parce que du coup, je suis sur mes...
Hello. This is a recorded message scheduled either by you or a person in your place of work. The purpose of this message is to warn you about the dangers of recorded messages. If at any time you believe you are listening to a recorded message, please terminate it immediately and cease all flow of information from the recorded message into your...
Et ce bucket... sert à rien, quoi.
The good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another.
On est d'accord qu'on voit plus le truc new content, hein. C'est pas que je regarde juste pas, quoi.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had
Ouais, tout n'est pas parfait. En plus, ouais, il y a les options d'accessibilité, mais pas mal de dialogues sont pas sous-titrés.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The
Vraiment envie de
cargo
tomber,
lift
là.
is good.
Said the bucket.
Et je suis sûr
Now
qu'on peut
ride the
passer
lift
par cette
all the way to the
passerelle, là.
top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Elle a déjà 2h30, hein, c'est...
In here,
Said the bucket.
go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone, and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
J'ai oublié comment on était arrivé à la fin au truc là quand on est dans un autre jeu et tout
This
là.
is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him. The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else. You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket.
Ça n'est jamais arrivé.
This stupid hunk of metal. It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it. Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
C'est beaucoup moins drôle que les trucs sur les, le review bombing. Hein.
I'm having feelings for the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes, the bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
La narration, elle a changé. Ça, c'est pas du nouveau... Enfin, il n'y a pas le truc nouveau content.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
It was okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Ouais, là, c'était man...
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Allô, ah d'accord, ok, Dark Nicolasg. Depuis tout à l'heure, tu spams pour qu'en fait j'aille dans le vent qu'on a fait quasiment en premier.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Ça va être magnifique.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
C'est pas là, mais ça reste du backseat. Hein.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
En fait, je sais plus comment on s'est retrouvé dans la zone qui imitait Firewatch. Et après, on était dans une espèce de friche. Mais j'ai la flemme de revoir mon propre let's play, quoi.
There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking.
Ah, de toute façon, je ne vais pas chercher à finir le jeu maintenant.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself.
Vous voyez que j'ai que ça à foutre de ma nuit. J'ai envie d'un tacos.
To let her back into your life. She's been waiting. That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. Oh, no, 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 you can't. Did you just unplug the phone? No, that wasn't supposed to be a choice. How did you do that?
You cette prise téléphonique. Bah ça, une prise téléphonique.
Let me double check. No, it's definitely here, clear as day. Stanley picks up the phone. He's taken to his apartment where he finds his wife, and the two pledge
Mais non, oh là là. Oh. Il est beaucoup trop tard pour agir quelqu'un qui dit c'est une prise anglaise. On parle d'une prise téléphonique. Quentin officiel. Je sais que ça fait longtemps, hein. que vous n'avez pas branché un téléphone fixe. Et ça se branche pas sur un gros secteur moche comme ça. Et oui, je ne suis pas perturbé par le fait que je vois une prise anglaise. J'ai vécu en Angleterre moi-même un an, mais...
To one another. Music comes in, fade to white, roll credits. Not picking up the phone is actually somehow an incorrect course of action. How is that even possible? None of these decisions were supposed to mean anything. I don't understand. How on earth are you making meaningful choices? What did you... Wait a second. Did I just see... No, that's not possible. I can't believe it. How had I not noticed it sooner? You're not Stanley. You're a real person. I can't believe I was so mistaken. This is why you've been able to make correct and incorrect choices. And to think I've been letting you run around in this game for so long. If you'd made any more wrong choices, you might have negated it entirely. It's as though you completely ignored even the most basic safety protocol for real-world decision-making. Or did you not grasp the severity of the situation? Well, I won't have that kind of risk on my watch. I'm going to stop the game for a moment so we can educate you properly on safe decision-making in the real world. Please observe this helpful instructional video.
Oh putain, ça va pas être drôle.
It's the best part of being a real person. But if used incorrectly, can also be the most dangerous. For example, in this scenario, a hypothetical real person named Rupert has a choice. He could invent a machine that eliminates food shortages across the world to make life better for all people. Or he could spend years of hard work forgetting how to read. Which choice would you make? Remember that unlike here, the real world makes sense, and at no time should you make a choice that does not conform to rational logic. If you find yourself speaking with a person who does not make sense, in all likelihood, that person is not real. Allow the person to finish their thought, then provide an excuse why you cannot continue talking. Turn to a partner and practice saying, "My goodness, is it 4:30? I'm supposed to be having a back, sack, and crack." Excellent. Making choices on a regular basis is the best part to a healthy decision-making process. Most medical professionals recommend making at least 8 choices per day.
Easy le succès de pas y jouer pendant 5 ans.
Less? And finally, if you begin to wonder if your choices are actually meaningful and whether you'll ever make a significant contribution to the world, just remember that in the vast infiniteness of space, your thoughts and problems are materially insignificant, and the feeling should subside. At this time, your instructor will guide you in an exercise to test and reinforce the material covered in this video.
Ah, welcome back. You may have noticed that this room has begun to deteriorate as a result of narrative contradiction. But not to worry. Now that you're properly informed on good decision-making, we're going to revisit a choice you made just a few minutes ago and see what the correct thing to do would have been. This way, please. Now that we know your choices are meaningful, we can't have you jumping off the platform and dying. Imagine the main character dying senselessly halfway through the story. That story would make no sense at all. We just need to get you home as soon as possible before the narrative contradiction gets any worse. Unfortunately, it seems this place is not well equipped to deal with reality.
Il y a une barrière partout.
Almost there. You'll take the door on the left, back to the correct ending, the story will have resolution once again, and you'll be home free in the real world. Now remember, all you need to do is behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Wow, c'est fermé. Wow.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Night Shark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code. Stanley spoke the code. Night Shark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall. I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the
dans le
receiver.
micro, quel micro?
Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step. Okay, fine, you're not going to do it, but you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. You behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
En fait, je ne sais pas. Je n'arrive pas à mapper. Je n'arrive pas à mapper dans ma tête ce que je n'ai pas déjà fait.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, behave exactly as Stanley would. That means choosing responsibly and always putting the story first. I'm quite sure you'll be up to the task. Just follow my lead and you'll be fine. All right. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. No! Why did you do that?
Quickly, hurry back in the other direction. Perhaps we're not too late.
Ah, mais j'aimerais qu'on puisse ouvrir les trucs, quoi. Mais... Ça va louper de ouf.
Oh, it's ruined. I can't believe, after everything we talked about, that my story, you've destroyed my work. Why? For what? What did you get out of that? What did you think was so special about seeing the game undone, left here like so much garbage? It's worthless now. And what am I supposed to do? Even if there were a way to continue, would it be worth it? To know that my story is now incorrect? How can I go back to that? I can't erase that knowledge. I'll have to live with it forever, reliving its impossibility forever. I couldn't live that way. Is it better to shut the game down entirely? To willingly destroy all of my work? I don't know. What's the answer? What do I do? What do I do? What do I... No, I have to. I have to shut the game down. I have to. I have to.
Et les trucs, c'est très funky. Hein.
Oh, I'm here. I'm still here. Here in this pile of rubbish. With you. You, who thought you were so clever. Now look where we are. My entire game is destroyed. It was the only thing in the world that was mine, and you've run it into the ground. What, did you think that would be funny? You just had to see? Didn't I impress upon you how important it was to be like Stanley? He actually knows how to do what I tell him to. He understands that if I say to do something, there's a damn good reason for it. That thought hadn't even occurred to you, had it? That there's a world outside of you? You're a child. Oh, my story. If you'd just gone through the door on the left, you would have seen it. There was a whole underground facility. You would have destroyed it and been victorious. It would have been so perfect. I worked so hard on it. I tried so hard to make... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door.
Ah, ça c'est cool. En out of bound.
Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley, please. I need you to make a choice. I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
Benzaie live. Tu peux finir le jeu en 10 secondes, nous dit Emric7.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly.
The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Bonsoir. On se fait chier? Oui. Elles ont bouffé un énorme tacos.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. "Where are we going today?" the bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him. Stanley pressed the bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage Stanley's belief in the magic of the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Chose avec... Faut trouver la dernière, quoi.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom cloth. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. And there it is, the last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Mais là, je dois redevenir zinzin.
Do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the...
Maintenant, j'ai toutes les figurines. Mais du coup, c'est plus bleu.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's just...
Incroyable.
It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Ok.
where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
Mon Dieu, le vertige.
And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember? No. The red and blue door room was the 4th place you found a Stanley, not the 3rd. Well, I guess perhaps I shouldn't be surprised. Memories like these are so precious and so cherished that they all just sort of blend together, don't they? You know what? If the red and blue door room feels like the 3rd place you found a collectible, then who am I to go making judgments? Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
Et non, il n'existe pas cette pièce. On dirait la fin d'Interstellar. Hein.
This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was in the warehouse. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Waouh. Les frag movies à l'ancienne. Sur Windows Movie Maker, ouais. Le bouton skip, s'il vous plaît. J'avais des potes, hein, ils faisaient des frag movies comme ça, hein, ça ressemblait littéralement à ça, ils étaient comme des oufs. Hein. Et que comme ça que tu pouvais dire que t'étais le meilleur.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else. And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here, under the stairs. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Videodrome.
And then
Videodrome.
There was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
Okay.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels. Okay, yes, that spot under the stairs. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched? Yes, I love that video.
Ok.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
Les sous-titres nous ont abandonnés. Hein.
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Merci, Easy Woos.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
On revient à l'envers de Stanley Parable, quoi.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more memories. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy, and I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single... Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person.
Oh là là, mais bon sang, vous allez... vous allez la fermer, oui, c'est chaud. J'ai le droit d'essayer un truc dans ma vie et de vérifier ensuite si ça a marché. Que dirait Joule? Vous avez laissé une frame, quoi. J'ai droit à l'erreur 0 fois. J'ai même pas le droit, c'est même pas un droit à l'erreur, j'ai même pas le droit de tester un truc qui a l'air juste. Il faut que je bannisse combien de gens? Vous êtes vous rendez zinzin. J'ai pas le droit de vérifier qu'il y a encore marqué reset the game, quoi.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human
merde, c'est quoi
life.
déjà?
Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ne pensez en tout cas pas jouer 3 heures au jeu, quoi.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Juste que là, le jeu te laisse rejouer
Stanley walked
la
straight
même
ahead through the
façon.
large door that read Mind Control Facility.
De bon cœur.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Et là, tu refais de bon cœur exactement la même chose, juste dans l'espoir de voir un truc un peu mieux.
Now the monitors jumped to life.
Parce qu'il y a
Their
un
true
truc qui a
nature
changé, quoi.
revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No.
En fait, j'ai jamais fait ça sans le saut.
He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert. Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command.
Pour moi, ça reste un moins gros buzz que ce jeu dans Dreams là où tu joues un espèce de Space Invaders en 2D. Et en fait, si t'as le malheur d'appuyer sur arrière avec un des sticks, tu recules et en fait tu te rends compte que t'es dans une bande d'arcade et en fait t'es dans une espèce d'usine et t'as pas le droit de sortir et en fait c'est un jeu d'exfiltration. Et en fait quand t'arrives dans les rues, il y a des aliens et tout et c'était un gros truc quoi.
Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his.
Je sais plus comment ça s'appelle.
That was all he needed to know.
Je vous prie de revoir les vieilles VOD.
The only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Ouais, il y avait le jeu avec Superman aussi, hein, qui était totalement dingue.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And
Le décor est
Stanley
dégueulasse quoi.
was happy.
On a enfin fini la boucle quoi. Je sais pas trop à quoi ça a servi de rebooter le jeu.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
Là, je suis un petit peu à court de jus sur là où aller quoi.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first.
Pour voir quelque chose de nouveau, quoi. Ouais, remarque, j'ai jamais fait on.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Je pourrais mettre mon heure préférée la prochaine fois, oui, oui, oui. What?
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it...
Mais ça on l'a fait.
You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the...
Du quel enfer. Et en fait, c'est que ça laisse présager que... Ça laisse présumer qu'en fait, il y a rien... tu verras pas tout tant que tu redémarres pas le jeu 10 fois, quoi. Oui. 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 C'est bien.
C'est un hareng.
Merci, businessman.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
J'en ai plein la tête, les gars, quoi. Le bucket, c'est bon, ça me fait plus rire.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
C'est que même dans le bordel, ça te conditionne, quoi. Et en fait, le jeu te décourage tellement d'essayer d'ouvrir la moindre porte que... flemme, quoi.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here. It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was
débloquer les trucs à base de rien branler.
In some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA. Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing nothing? Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
C'est une des rares portes qu'on peut refermer soi-même.
You do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it. Maybe to you this is somehow its own branching path. Maybe when you go talk about this with your friends you'll say, "Oh, did you get the broom closet ending? The broom closet ending was my favorite." I hope your friends find this concerning. Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid. He probably only got the job because of a family connection. That's how stupid he is. That or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Ah oui, d'accord, des putes.
Well, I've come to a very definite conclusion about what's going on right now. You're dead. You got to this broom closet, explored it a bit, and were just about to leave because there's nothing here, when a physical malady of some sort shut down your central nervous system and you collapsed in front of your screen. Well, in a situation like this, the responsible thing is to alert someone nearby so as to ensure that your body is taken care of before it begins to decompose. Hello? Anyone who happens to be nearby? The person at this computer is dead. They have fallen prey to any number of your countless human physiological vulnerabilities. It's indicative of the long-term sustainability of your species. Please remove their corpse from the area and instruct another human to take their place, making sure they understand basic first-person video game mechanics and filling them in on the history of narrative tropes in video gaming, so that the irony and insightful commentary of this game is not lost on them. All right, when you've done that, just step out into the hallway.
Uber Eats. Ouais, mais Brooklyn Calzone, il s'arrête jamais de livrer des pizzas, des calzones, quoi. Franchement, ils sont safe, hein. Let's go, hein. Non, attends. Leur calzone... La dernière fois, j'ai pris leur calzone de base, elle était très bien. Ils ont une bœuf hachée, fromage de chef, crème fraîche. Poulet barbecue cheddar. Et chorizo, mozza. En vrai, je pense que je vais prendre la normale, hein, la Red Hook quand même. Non, ils ont 4 fromages et crème fraîche. La Rockaway, c'est calzone. Ah oui, d'accord, ok. Champignons mozza. Ils ont juste fromage de chèvre, tomate. Et Coney Island, chorizo, poivron, olive, oignon, mozza. Non mais vas-y pas pour juste une vraie calzone normale, parce qu'il y a de l'œuf et tout. Ils appellent ça une red hook, putain. Voilà, ok. Tac. Il a fermé sa gueule.
Ah, second player. It's good to have you on board. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left
j'ai jamais
his
fait ça
post
sans le
during
bucket,
work
je crois.
hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk?
Oh, c'est
All because
infini.
he believed everyone had vanished.
Là.
His boss
Quoi, t'as
would
jamais
think he was
compris l'intérêt
crazy.
des calzones,
And
je
then
t'ai dit.
something
Mais il y a un
occurred to
œuf
Stanley.
dedans, quoi.
Maybe,
C'est en
he thought
chausson,
to
la
himself,
cuisson n'a rien à
maybe
voir
I
en termes de
am
texture non
crazy.
plus.
All of my coworkers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment.
C'est les
for
meilleures
no
pizzas.
reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
On va bien se faire chier avec cette fin. Mais là, je commence à être à court de
All of his
jus,
coworkers
quoi.
were gone. What could it mean?
Il est 3h30
Stanley
du matin,
decided
si
to
vous regardez
go to
ça
the
sur
meeting
YouTube.
room.
Hein.
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it.
Non mais je suis con, en fait, on n'a jamais fait la vraie fin, mais en disant on. Mettre un terme au jeu, le prochain reboot devrait être le dernier. Il y a vraiment encore du reboot, quoi. Mais c'est vrai que si on n'avait pas fait la fin, quand on ferme la porte, ça enchaînait plus de jeux, quoi. Mon Dieu, mais quel enfer! Il y a le vrai épilogue, là. La vraie fin, c'était dans le désert. Berit me dit que ma pizza est là dans 10 minutes. Hein. Je crois que ce serait un troll encore.
C'est un hareng.
Merci Bocalmania. La dune ending. C'est littéralement la Dune ending. Hein. La musique est bien. C'est tombé sur Jim Morrison. Et un indien serbi à moitié à poil. Quand le vent vient de l'est, le soleil est à l'ouest, et s'endort les sables d'or. Ouah, les souvenirs. Les souvenirs du narrateur, la nostalgie. Souviens-toi. T'es bien amusé, le petit dernier. Clairement des souvenirs sur Stanley Parable 2. Ah. Ce qui souligne à quel point je suis déçu de cette suite-là où la suite, le jeu origine brillé par son héritier, le Stanley Parable est ennuyeux, sans inspiration et bien souvent insultant et garde ses fans. Plutôt que de surfer sur ce qui avait fait le succès du premier jeu, la suite nous emmène des territoires qui nous intéressent personne. Un trou sans fin qui s'intéresse ou sans les nouvelles fins. Et ces séquences amusantes de Stanley Parable 1 comme la ligne d'aventure. Au lieu de ça, ça nous sert une quête annexe peu inspirée à base de collecte de figurines. Même cette diversion laisse un goût d'inachevé. Oh, les figurines n'apportent rien. Plus de spin-off, plus de suite. Quand Stanley Parable a connu un succès mondial en 2013, les créateurs ont envisagé de faire fructifier ce triomphe en créant une véritable franchise, mais la réception critique désastreuse de l'échec commercial de Stanley Parable 2 ont forcé les développeurs à avoir une baisse de leur ambition. Et bah réclamons que les fans ne veulent plus le Stanley Parable. Jim. Eh oui. C'est une tâche beaucoup trop lourde. Une croix beaucoup trop lourde à porter, un premier succès. C'est une métaphore du What the Cut 38, les mecs. Et je dis ça sans déconner. De toute façon, tu ne pourras pas faire plaisir. Oh merde, attends, on est revenu là. Tu ne pourras pas satisfaire tout le monde. À quoi bon se défoncer ? Même en faisant ce que les gens ont réclamé. C'est la malédiction. De ton premier succès. The Stanley Parable 3. L'enfant errant. Voyage vers le contenu. Il est exactement 3h39. The Stanley Parable 3. Je vais vers le contenu.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Je peux monter sur le bureau 434 au début.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet? Well, I don't know how to say this politely, but you could literally just restart the game any old time you want, like right now. You could have done it just then. Now would also be an appropriate time to quit. Any of these points and so many, many more, all of them are appropriate. I'm enjoying what seems to be an internal conflict going on where you are literally unable to act on your own desires to restart the game. So, just to push the envelope, I'm going to try and make this as miserable as possible and see how long you can maintain. There once was a man named Stanley, who people considered so manly. But the truth must be told, he was not very old and was quite particularly gangly. What Stanley liked most was buttons. He pushed them like some kind of glutton. He did it all day in a meaningful way, but his brain had long ceased to function. Which is why he is in this parable and lives an existence quite terrible. And if you are not strong and keep playing along, you too will become quite unbearable. Yes. You too will become quite unbearable.